me for my first job after college. She did this despite an obnoxious pink suit, 3 different hair colors at the same time, and 9 earrings in 2 ears. I asked her to explain this decision many years later, and I'll share her answer with you in a moment. Mona was my boss, my mentor, and my friend. She had a unique knack for being my warmest supporter, but she could also not so warmly call BS on me when I deserved it, and I did sometimes. Over the last 25 years, not all my relationships with women in the workplace have been so positive. Let me illustrate. Wow, she's killing it in this meeting. Totally on point. She looks really nice today. 8 years ago, I was hit with the urgent need to understand this better. So for 8 years, I've been watching and researching and observing female relationships in the workplace so that I could understand the why, the what, the how, and the men. Why do we behave the way we do? What could we do differently for more healthy, supportive, authentic relationships? How would this affect our happiness and our career success? And men, this is for you too. Understanding how females relate to one another in the workplace can only help you, both at work and at home. So let me tell you a story about Denise. Same job Mona hired me for 25 years ago, and the scene is an elevator bank. And it's 7:58 a.m. on any day, and because I have a terrible relationship with 8 o'clock in the morning, I am racing up to the elevator, only to find her there every single day. Denise, she was perfect. She was like a princess. She didn't walk, she floated. She didn't wait for the elevator. It waited for her. I didn't realize it at the time, but I was comparing myself to Denise and competing to some extent. Comparison and competition. Why? Well, over the last 8 years, I've identified about 4 influences that I think cause us to compete with and compare ourselves to other women in the workplace in ways that I don't think serve us. So to begin to understand that, we have to go back, way back, to middle school. I know I don't really want to go there either. So I was reading a book about parenting teenage girls because I have 3, and I needed to find the chapter on why my sense of humor, my sense of style, and my intellect were disappearing. And I never found that chapter, so that remains a mystery. But what I found was this. It's actually a very normal and healthy part of human development for teenage girls, middle school girls, to compare themselves to one another. It's how we create character bookends. I will do this, I won't do that. I want to be like this, I don't want to be like that. But the problem is that we continue to do it long after it's helpful for us. So why? Well, other forces, internal and external, I think get in the way. Role models matter, both fictional and real life. Also an important part of development. For my generation, we had fairy tales. Girl gets in trouble, boy saves girl, they live happily ever after. We had Barbie doll, we had Wonder Woman, and as girls, we were comparing ourselves. How do we measure up? Well, it turns out not so well, because Barbie, if alive, would actually be dead, because her head is 6 inches bigger than her waist. The good news is, and this is good news, even in the last 8 years that I've been studying this, we have so many more powerful and strong fictional female role models, and they're taking leading roles. But we still have this, the media. Forces beyond fiction, well, sort of. We have a 24/7 news cycle. We receive more news across more channels with a higher frequency than at any other time in our history. We have Netflix, we have the internet, we have social media, and what do we see? Well, if we're looking for real-life role models, we really have to look. Only 6.6% of Fortune 500 CEOs are female. While the average American woman is a size 14, the average model is still a size 2. We see headlines in otherwise substantive publications that say, "Is your shadow fat?" And then we see filters. A highly filtered world in social media. Did you know that researchers have found an inverse correlation between a person's actual happiness and their image online? Did you know that with every click and like and unlike and follow, that our physiology and our psychology is changing due to the endorphins and the adrenaline? But speaking of that, if you could please do me a favor and follow me on Twitter at Michelle or at Kommer Michelle, that would be super. It would give me a rush for days. Hashtag thank you. Inaccurate, unreachable standards, and lots of them. We receive between 3,000 and 20,000 messages every single day. And it's not going to stop anytime soon. The stakes are too high. Did you know that by the year 2025, females will control 2/3 of the consumer wealth in our nation? There's a lot of business in helping us feel like we should be thinner or younger or something more or something less than we really are. And this can be okay too, because it's entertainment, but we have to see it through that lens. The fourth dynamic is what I call the I should paradigm. We are inundated with messages every day that tell us how we can be more successful professionals, more successful mothers, daughters, sisters, and how that affects us is that whatever we're doing, we feel like I should be doing that. And if I'm doing that, I should be doing that. And oftentimes, we feel like we're failing at all of it. This affects our happiness. Did you know that happiness has been measured in the United States since 1972? And since that time, male happiness has gradually increased every single year. And since that time, female happiness has decreased every single year. Why is that? There are a lot of hypotheses. I think it might be because we hear so many messages about what we should be, and not enough messages telling us, you are enough. So, when you put that all together, you find yourself running up to the elevator bank with a very heavy purse that includes your teenage self, your Barbie doll, your Pinterest page with 137 pins of things you'll never actually do. What does it sound like? Maybe like this. Did you hear her closing argument? She was completely awesome. She had the jury in tears, and she made it look so easy, and she looked good doing it. Did you see the pink dress? Cupcake pink? If I wore that dress, I would look like an actual cupcake. Her kids are so lucky. I bet she even fed them today. Not me. Pop-Tarts, anyone? Yes, again. We're late. Get in the car. Get in the minivan. Let's go. Did you smell her when she walked by? It was this delicious scent. It was like woodsy or citrusy. I don't know what it was, but I know that if I wore it, I would smell like a urinal cake. That's right. That's right. And speaking of the word scent, it's like the weirdest word. What's silent? The letter S or the letter C? I feel like I'm forgetting something. Speaking of the word scent, I forgot my deodorant. I'm so stupid. What did you hear? Proof that we bring our teenage selves to work some days? Proof that of the 70,000 thoughts that go through your mind every day, that up to 70% of them can be negative? Proof that we compare our insides to other people's outsides? And as Teddy Roosevelt says, comparison is the thief of joy. So how do we react? Well, according to Gallup, 30% of office bullies are women. 70% of them choose to bully other women. We have a special style. We're passive-aggressive. I'm fine. We isolate ourselves so that we don't have to compete and compare. And the queen bee, she holds other women down so that she doesn't have to compete and compare. Like there's not enough room for all of us. But it doesn't have to be this way. We don't have to live in a world where more than half of women prefer to work for a male boss. These things hurt us, they hold us down, they deprive us of who we were meant to be and the richness of the connections that we could have if we worked together and held each other up. This brings me back to a story about Denise. We were on a business trip. I didn't even know she was on it until we showed up for the team dinner that night. We were in California, so it was hot, and I was sweating, and she was glowing. And the only seat left was next to her, so I took it, and she ordered a lemonade, so I ordered a lemonade. And then it happened. She leaned in, and she told me she wasn't feeling well because she was 4 months pregnant. So was I. And it turns out that Denise was not aloof, she was shy. So was I. And it turns out that we went on to be what Gallup calls best friends at work, the kind that makes you 50% more satisfied with your job and 7 times more likely to engage in your work, the kind of friendship that makes those terrifying first few months of being a brand new parent less terrifying, the kind of friendship that makes you feel less lonely. And if it had not been for the accident of that trip, she would have continued to have been the perfect princess, and I would have missed so much. Well, this very simple news won't change you overnight. I've been practicing this for 8 years. So here's what it sounds like. Here she comes. Pause. Think about what you have in your handbag that you didn't pack. Set it down. Ask yourself what you could be missing. I told you that I would finish the story about why Mona hired me. I said Mona is because of my obvious intelligence, my unlimited potential, my sense of humor, because I can talk really, really fast. She said, no. Michelle, it's because I knew I could learn something from you. And I knew that I could help you learn something. Those are the questions to fill the pause when you see her coming, when you see her in the meeting. What can I learn from her, and how can I help? Mona, my first boss, my mentor, and my friend, was killed in a motorcycle accident 8 years ago. And I never got to ask her how she knew that those were the 2 questions. But I do know this, that if you can pause and let this very simple idea change you and put down your bag, that you will feel lighter and happier, and you will know more Monas, and you may even become one. Thank you.